All right. Welcome back to the Board Drill Podcast. As always, I'm your host, Kyle, here with my co-host, Matt. And tonight we have a special guest, little kind of football tangential, if you will. If I even said that right, tangential. Like, why can I not say that word, Matt?
No.
It's just tangential? No, it's tangential, right?
Podcast. We're on a big word podcast.
Tangential is a word, right? Screw it. All right, awesome. We are on tonight with Scott Leech, who is the head strength and conditioning coach at Rhode Island. Scott, welcome to the show. We're excited to have you on. Talk a little bit of strength and conditioning tonight.
Awesome. I'm happy to be here. This is exciting.
I do our little golf clap.
I know there were sound effects.
We are.
High class.
Listen, we literally have tens of followers. Okay, so listen, it's a very important thing. So look, Scott, tonight we're going to talk about strength and conditioning at the high school level. We kind of talked a little bit about this. There's a lot of coaches out there in high school. And listen, if you're a certified strength and conditioning coach at high school right now, good for you. And that's awesome. And we're glad that you're listening. But a lot of high school coaches out there do not have a certified strength and conditioning coach on their staff, especially not in the state that we come from and we live in Florida, right? Not a lot of funding. And plus, let's be real, if you went through all that work to get your certification, you're probably not going to want a teaching salary, especially in the state of Florida. So it's something that we definitely respect and we want to talk about tonight. So if you could, we're going to chat a little bit about strength and conditioning, but tonight we're really going to focus a lot on the off-field stuff, but let's start on the field stuff. But let's start a little bit in the weight room. So, can you kind of give us your principles in the weight room, knowing that a regular high school off season is about 8 weeks, what would you be doing in the weight room just to get that done? And what are kind of the key focuses?
Yeah. Before we even get into that, like just to validate, yes, I am a Division I strength and conditioning coach, but high school strength and conditioning is something that's always been important to me. Especially up here in New England, up here in Rhode Island in particular. Like I didn't have a high school strength coach growing up. Like my strength coach was reading T Nation and some of the other bodybuilding, like get a bodybuilding magazine, go in the basement and like just, thankfully I had a cement floor basement and I ended up breaking a barbell, like dropping it. And my dad was like, all right, we're going to build a platform. So like he helped me build a platform. And like, I think that's a lot of where my lifting came from is because I didn't have a coach. So I had to do it myself.
Yeah.
And I understand that. Like I understand a lot of people that they're really good football coaches. They want the best for the kids. And when you want the best for the kids, I want to be able to help you in any way, shape, or form I can. It's the coaches that think they've got it all figured out, or they're going to just keep doing, what they did in the 80s and 90s. And it's like, nope, like that's not how things work anymore. Like we have enough information now. Google is a thing. Like we can do better. We can put the headphones in, listen to the podcast and learn something. So, it is a thing. Like if you guys think you don't have any strength coaches down there, like it's not a thing up here. It's very rare. We have like 3 high school or 3 prep schools in the area. Prep school is more of a thing up here than high school. So I'm waiting for like one of these really cushy prep school jobs to open up so I can lock in and retire there. But, it's not going to happen. So it is what it is. And, I guess selfishly too, high school football in Rhode Island is never going to be the thing. Can you guys name one NFL player from Rhode Island?
Matt?
No.
Me neither.
I'm going to be really honest here. I'm pretty sure I know where Rhode Island is, like on a map. Like I think I can point it out.
So like our claim to fame right now is we have one NFL guy, Kwity Paye, for the Indianapolis Colts.
Yeah.
Right. So he's a Rhode Island guy. So like, other than that, it's not really a thing, right? So we're trying to make high school football, obviously in Rhode Island, better. But anywhere where coaches want to get better, I'm willing to help. So we're starting with what? We're starting with the weight room stuff. I lost the whole question with that tangent.
No, you coach. I appreciate hearing the background on it. So that's probably my fault for rushing you.
No, you're good. You're good. So when it comes to the weight room stuff, I've always felt like this. If let's say you're not, we're talking to the football coach who has to take over the weight room responsibilities and as, not in essence, they've probably lifted weights before. You probably played in college or you're just an active person yourself. And you're like, okay, like the weight room's not too foreign. If you've never been in a weight room and now you're in charge of the weight room, okay, yeah, let's go read some books. But, I think a lot of people understand how to train for the most part, know what's good and know what's not good. when it comes to recommendations, I always recommend start if it looks a little on the easier side, good. Like I'm okay with that. I'd rather it be that stuff be easy, and then let's challenge them outside with running and jumping and field work and things like that. Like make that stuff a little bit harder. I'd rather you take it easier on them in the weight room, and then when they get to college, they can really just blow up and go, than the person that's really trying to chase, like, oh, we got to get this kid squatting 500 pounds, 600 pounds in high school. It's like, why? Like, is it really going to help you? You know, the genetic freaks are always going to squat 500 pounds. It's like,
it's true.
Why don't you just, you know, that kid is not going to get there. Like, why don't you just make him faster, make him more durable, make sure he can practice every day? Like, so I'm, you know, you can call me soft or whatever, but like I'm a believer in split squats. I'm a believer in goblet squats, trap bar deadlift if you have trap bars. I think all those things are phenomenal. Going slow, teaching them how to do it with tempo, and honestly, like if I was in charge of a high school program, your freshmen are going on a very basic program of like ISOs, body weight, and you know they got to earn the right to pick up dumbbells and do it from there. And then your sophomores and your juniors are doing the safer, quote unquote, safer exercises. So you progress them to front squats, and you progress them to, you know, heavier trap bars, and maybe you get into some juggernaut sets and reps. You get into Jim Wendler 5-3-1. I think that stuff's phenomenal. I think that honestly 5-3-1 you can never go wrong with. So you get him into front squats, get him into trap bar deadlift, get him into maybe some split squats if you run out of heavy dumbbells. But I mean, honestly, depending on your dumbbells, you can probably do split squats for a long time, and then you can kick the back foot up and go rear foot elevated split squats. Like, I posted this winter, like I'm a big believer in those things, and even skater squats where it's like a split squat, but your back foot doesn't touch the ground. Does that make sense? So you come down and you touch your knee to the pad and you come back up. I mean, no credit to me. He was a transfer running back, so I'll give the credit to Chris Fee over at Sacred Heart. But we had a running back come in and grab 120-pound dumbbells and do that for 3 reps on each leg. And it's like, that's 240 pounds on one leg. So double that, it's what, 480 for a triple on each leg. Like that's freakishly crazy strong. And he doesn't have to put 480 on his back and then wake up the next day and be like, man, why does my back hurt? You know, wake up tomorrow and go, man, my quads got cooked. That was a good workout yesterday. So, you know, I'm not saying that the back squats and the hang cleans and things are over. No, I think they're great exercises when you coach them up and you know what you're looking for, and you can control the room and make sure it doesn't turn into ego city. And that's not easy with high school kids, right? They just want to do more and more and more. So I like to choose exercises that just put you, you know, you can do more and more and more on front squat, but eventually you're just going to drop the front squat. So you know what? You might as well do it with good form. So I'm personally, I've gotten away from a lot of the Olympic lifting. We'll still do overhead stuff. We'll do push jerks. We'll do some lighter snatches and things like that. But I am a guy that, you know, do you hang clean or do you do other stuff? I'm honestly doing more of the other stuff now than I am hang cleaning, because in college we would do hang cleans and then the season would start. And some guys could do it. Some guys would be banged up. We'd switch to high pulls. We do a lot of high pulls for a long time. And then from Thanksgiving until they come back really in January, they're on their own. Are they doing it? Are they not doing it? I don't know. I got to go back, basically assume that they didn't, start January light and build my way back up to March. Spring ball comes around and then they're back to not doing it again because they're banged up. So it's like, you know, if you're an Olympic lifter and you don't get hurt because all you do is Olympic lift, then you can do them. But we do a lot of box jumps, drop off boxes, hurdle jumps, the trap bar jumps. So you're putting weight on the trap bar, and it's the same idea, right? You're jumping as high as you can. You're sticking the landing. It's very similar to a clean, just without the catch in the front rack position. We'll make that up later in the week by doing some freaking heavy front squats. And you know what? If my jump numbers weren't always getting better and my sprint numbers weren't always getting better and our squats and our bench and our body fat, like if those numbers weren't going in the right direction, then we would sit back and be like, okay, maybe we do need to put cleans back in. But you know, I've gotten rid of them and we've only gotten faster and we've only gotten better at jumping and we're putting on more weight and our body fat's going down. So I don't know. I think I've got it figured out, at least for my situation here right now. So,
well, and to your point, you know, I talk with a lot of strength coaches in the college world, and again, I am as novice as it gets. So correct me ever if I'm wrong. But a lot of them said, like, look, it's not the end of the world if you can't clean. Like, we're not saying it's bad, but just put some dumbbells in the kid's hand and make them jump. So if you don't have a bunch of platforms, you don't have this, you still probably have dumbbells and you can go out and do that. And right, isn't it? It's the triple joint extension and all that still when you're jumping with weight and everything, correct?
And it's honestly, it's I get more. Sometimes you get more effort because kids doing 135 hang clean, and they're kind of just going through the motions, right? Yeah. And they're just bam, bam, and it's like, did you really? I have a quote, and it's like, if it doesn't challenge you, it's not going to change you. So like, you going through the motions, did that make you any better? Or if you take 30 or 40 pound dumbbells and you squat and you jump as high as you can and you stick the landing every time and you put all of your effort into it, you're going to get more out of that exercise than you are going through the motion. Now you could just tell me to coach harder, right? Make sure that, right? And that's always the argument. Oh, you don't do cleans because you can't coach. Yes, I can coach them. I just don't want to because I get better effort out of this exercise because it's a quote unquote dumber exercise. Like, pick up the dumbbells, try as hard as you can. It comes down to effort, and I can coach effort all day. Like, that's effort's a lot easier than technique, and for something that doesn't matter, like the technique outside is the thing that matters. Like, if they can't catch it, whatever. Like, it's so like, and people want to argue about it. I'm like, I'm good, man. You do you. I'm gonna do me, and whatever.
That's the world we live in, right?
Put the ball down. We'll figure it out.
When coach is in your name, with 50 or 60% of the people out there, you can never do it right, and that's just the way it is.
Yeah,
we talk about this all the time, right, Matt? You can call the perfect play, and if the kid drops the ball wide open in the flat, you're an idiot.
Yeah.
So it's just the way it is. Well,
Coach,
perfect. Sorry, go ahead.
Hold on. Does that also include? You talked about hang cleans. Does that also include power cleans? Do you guys power clean at all from the floor, or nothing?
Yeah, no. So I mean, we'll do trap bar jumps starting in the ground. So like our bigs, we'll do a lot more trap bar jumps starting with the weight in the ground. Getting your stance and explode out of it. Whereas like your skill guys, we might pick up the trap bar to start and then counter movement jump, just like you would in a hang clean, load and then explode.
Yeah.
So I mean, we won't even power clean or hang clean. We'll just do jumps instead.
Is there any correlation? I mean, I'm just gonna ask the random question. Is there any correlation with like less injuries or anything like that since you've been doing it, since it's technically less like technique intensive?
It's so hard to tell because, right, injuries is just an overall holistic approach. And I know you guys had Tony on a while ago, and I believe in a lot of what Tony does, like a less is more approach. And our injuries have always gotten better. So it's hard to tell if that's the one thing. I've changed a lot of things, right? So I don't know what the one thing is that's helping us get better. But
no, that's fair. That's fair. Yeah. So, Matt, do you have any more questions about the weight room? We'll kind of transition to all this kind of on the field stuff, which I think is the bulk of what we're talking tonight.
No, I think it's just, a lot of coaches are set in their ways, right? So you get a lot of high school coaches. This is the way we've always done it. We know that.
Oh God, I hate that phrase.
Well, and I think it attributes more to that they have proof that this works, right? So a lot of high school coaches are afraid to change for what if it doesn't work for that summer? What if it doesn't work for that, off season? So I think that's where you get a lot of, coaches that are not sure to step outside the box and do stuff like that.
Yeah. And you know what? It's one of those things where it's, I've talked to coaches about this where, we'll talk about contact prep later and they're like, I really want to start doing this, but our head coach, he hasn't done that. And we've won 5 state championships. And why would we change something if we've won 5 state championships? And I get that. So it's like, you just got to put that information in front of people. Hey, look at what all these other successful programs are doing. Here's the injury rates to prove it. People are they're getting better and staying healthy. And especially the how they've always done it, people are very hard. And sometimes you're never going to win. You're never going to beat that person in the argument stake. But the way I always see it too, and I tell at least our college coaches, because we got a lot of college coaches that have been around for a long time, not just football, but other sports as well. And you know what, like this is what they get paid to do. Like they get paid to run the ship. And so who am I to come in and tell you that how you've been running the ship successfully for 20 years is not the best way to run the ship? Like, it's tough to hear that. I wouldn't want them to come in and tell me, well, you don't know how to run the ship. And I'm like, I have plenty of evidence that says we're going the right direction. So, I get it. And it's like, there's a grace and a respectful and a play. And it's like, maybe it's just every time you see something pretty sweet on Instagram, you're just sending it
over. Yeah.
What do you think about that? What do you think about this? Stop sending me this stuff. I don't want to do it. And you're just like, okay, well, you just then you put it in the group chat, so it's not going right to that one person. It's going to the group chat.
Then other people are showing them. So
and then everyone starts flooding it with.
Look, the ultimate idea is get the guy in charge to think it was his idea in the long run, and you get to keep it, right? I've done that plenty of times. I've done that to Matt before. He doesn't even know it. I'll tell him later what I did it with, but there are those things. And in my second point for transition to this other part is Matt said it, and it's a phrase. I'm sorry if you use this phrase and you're out there. If you get one thing from this podcast and me talking ever, this is the way we've always done it. Is the quickest way to make sure I will never be anywhere near your building. And if you're a good coach out there and people say that a lot in your building, find a new building. I'm sorry. I have a strong opinion on that. This is the way I've always done it. That's a terrible phrase. Get away from that. Be around people who want to adapt and get better, because just like Coach is saying, things are advancing so quickly. You know, obviously you don't have to do it all at once, but man, always find something to get a little better in the off season.
It's funny, like for a football coach, you know, your offense or your defense and how you scheme it and how you run it, like that is your calling card. That is your resume. Is what you put out there on tape every day. You know, my programming is the same way. What I put out for a program is my livelihood, my resume. Why would I not want to try and make it better every single year? You know, and why would I roll out the same thing? We're still not, you know, I don't think there's any program, maybe I'm wrong, but I don't think there's any program still using a projector, right, to put their plays up, right? So you are willing to make some changes.
Yeah. And to your point, we go out as coaches and we steal crap every year from college coaches and everything else. Yeah. Why would we not steal stuff for the weight room too? I mean, we're all big. Oh, do you see Lane Kiffin did this? Oh, do you see so-and-so? And Kirby did that. Well, why aren't we saying, did you see the strength and conditioning coach do that? So I think that's a good point to it, is like, look, these guys, by the way, strength conditioning coaches on Twitter, if you guys haven't caught on to Twitter, go follow a bunch of them. They're fantastic. They post stuff every day. It's awesome.
It's a different world. Like there's some good ones that won't share anything. I'm like, all right, you do you, man. I love that. Like you do your thing. But there's so many good ones out there that just have the same mindset as me of like, we just want to see, like, if I can help my kids, great. That's 80 football kids, 90 on a roster that I was able to make a difference. But if I can help 10 coaches who can then go out and help 80 or 90 kids each per year, right? That's 800, 900 kids per year. And then multiply that over how long? Like that's talking about making a change. We, you know, talk about making high school football better and talk about making youth football better. And, you know, in a day and age where the game is getting a little bit softer and they're changing the rules and they're making it harder to really like, and there's a lot more information going out. You know, I got a 9-month-old and I'm like, you know, someday he's going to play football or he's going to want to play football. And it's like, he's going to have a lot of, you know, same as me. Like my head doesn't work always 100% of the time. So it's like
in bubble wrap by then. I think you're good.
I'm hoping by then, right, that enough of us have made a difference and that we've made training better and safer and we've made practice better and safer. And, you know, we all love the sport. We want to see it continue to grow and get better. So it's like, why wouldn't we share that information, try and help each other out?
No, I agree. I think that's a great point. With that, let's transition to this off-field stuff. I'm super excited about it, so let's hear all about it. I'm not sure where you want to start, so you just go ahead and we'll ask questions.
Yeah, I mean, so this has always been the thing, and I put something out called the Gridiron Warrior a couple of years ago. To honestly, it was just because I had so many friends that are high school coaches that were like, "Hey, I know how to do the weight room stuff. I still lift myself. I do 5-3-1. I understand the basics of lifting, but I have no idea all this other stuff that you do. Like, how do you do all this other stuff?"
Yeah.
And for a while, I'm like texting him the answers, and I'm like, this is complicated.
It's exhausting.
Like, there's more to it than that. So like things like, you know, you want to work on acceleration, you want to work on top speed training, you want to work on change of direction. In terms of conditioning, like we know there's probably a better way to do it. So what is that? Contact prep, which is kind of a new area as well. And then I try and incorporate as many, you know, I call them football drills as possible. There's always that gray area, at least in college football, of like, what are we allowed to do that's football, but not football? What equipment can we bring out? What can we not get caught with? Like, and then I know high school, it depends on your state, but, you know, some states allow spring practice. Some states don't. Some states allow pads. Some don't. Some don't allow anything until August, which is crazy, or they only allow 7-on-7. So it's like there's more you can do there. And sometimes you can say it's part of your strength and conditioning, and then you're killing two birds with one stone. So I kind of laid out this program that not only is it a 12-week program, and I've had coaches just grab it, pick it up, and run and do it, and it covers everything, and they're good to go. But also coaches that can pick it up and go, okay, I like what you did, but I'm gonna make this and tweak this, and my kids come in at this time. So that was the goal. It's like, I'm gonna give you everything that you could possibly want, and if you want to do the whole thing straight up, great. But if you don't want to, if you just want to pull the pieces that fit your program or the things that your program needs to get better at, and you want to keep the things that you already do well, by all means, like, you can make that work. So those are all areas where I was like, you know what, like, let's get better at that. And the program itself too is very high school friendly, because I know there's not, equipment is one, and I'm an FCS program, and so I have some nice things, and I miss a lot of things that a lot of, the next level up, the Group of Five, the Power Five have. Like, I don't have GPS units and things like that, so like I can't track how many yards these kids run. I've done some free trials, and from that I've figured out enough information I put actually in the program of like, here's what kids typically, at least at my level, here's what they run in a week. And if they run this much in 1 week, how do I get them ready for that over the course of the summer? Will you ever get them ready? No, right? Because I only get them 8 hours a week in the summer, and then we're going to blow through that in the first 2 days.
Yeah.
we're going to be out there for 3 hours the first 2 days, plus a walkthrough in the afternoon or something like that. We're going to get the 8 hours in 2 days. So I can never get, but can I get them close? Can I get them kind of lined up and more than just in shape? Can I get them in football positions? Can I do the contact prep stuff? And then can I also get them faster? Can I get their first step better? It's all those things. And I think those things we talked about, if you only did the field stuff and you didn't lift, you'd still be good for preseason.
Yeah.
If you only lifted and didn't do any of the jumps or the conditioning or any stuff on the field, you'd be in a world of hurt. So if I have to pick one or the other to really focus on and get better at, it's got to be this one. If I improve all these areas, I think the level of athleticism goes through the roof.
Yeah, and I think I've been around a lot of coaches that have the opinion of the opposite, and I've known, right? I'm with you. I'm a guy. Look, I got a track background. I was a football player. I was a DB. Obviously, we like running a lot more, and sometimes we like lifting, but we go out there and I have coaches, we're going to work out for 50 minutes or an hour. Hey, we're running behind, cut the run short, or cut what you're doing on the track short. And I'm like, no, we got to get through this. Like, we have a longer day on the track. It's our over distance day. Maybe we're running, broken 150s or broken 200s, and, the recovery time's got to be there for it. I'm like, no, we need a full 45 minutes in this part. And they're like, well, cut it short. We got to go do this. And I'm like, So to be honest with you, I think that's an important part of what you just said. There's a lot of coaches out there that probably think that the weight room lifting is a lot more important than going out and in the proper run and movement. And I'm with you. Like, look, football is all about movement. So, again, people can disagree with me, and that's fine. Sorry, Matt, go ahead.
I'd say 80% of high school football coaches, maybe 90%, believe that the weight room is more important than field work.
Yeah.
I mean, for some reason that's
at least in this state, the ones we've been around. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
I would say 80% of those coaches probably lift, but don't actually do anything on the field themselves. So yeah, are you going to prioritize the thing that you know how to do and you can do and you're comfortable doing? Yeah, of course you're going to prioritize that. But like, how many coaches put the cleats on and go out there and say, all right, I'm going to go do movement for an hour and then I'm going to go lift? And no, but I think the kids should do that. It's like, okay, like, you got to be able to get out there and do those things. And I think the more you do that, the more you realize, like, okay, I can't do those things anymore, right? I'm a dad now, and I got dad bones, and I feel it. And I'm like, I tried doing some jumps and sprints the other day. I was sore for like 2 weeks, but I'm like, okay, like, that's definitely what they should be doing instead of just prioritizing lifting weights the entire time.
Yeah,
do it while you can, right?
Yeah, absolutely, Coach. You talked about tracking your players and trying to figure out, what exactly they need to be able to do for a week. High school football coaches, we're trying to get those guys ready for a Friday night. You're going to have a set amount of plays or time you have in the game. What would be your recommendation for high school coaches? Like, what the end result should be? Like, what are they trying to prep for? Is it a certain amount of plays or a distance that needs to be run to make sure their players are in shape and ready to go?
So I'm trying to, from a distance standpoint, it's hard to measure, right? If you can't
Yeah.
measure distance, then me telling you the distance doesn't really do too much. It helps in the summer because you can plan out, conditioning. I know if we do a 40-yard sprint, I'm covering about 40 yards of distance, right? So you can, and we're going to do 12 of those, and that's going to be 480 yards of sprint ball. So you can do it that way. But once you get into practice, you can't really figure it out because practice is so great. So I would use time, or I would use, hey, we're going to be out there for a certain number. We're going to get X number of good plays in. If we got two-way guys and they play 80 snaps, I'm not saying you should ever do 80 snaps in one practice. That sounds crazy, but like I always say, 10% jump or less. So like maybe you get one scrimmage or an inner squad or something like that, and you're trying to hit, I don't know, like 70, 65, 70 would be like a really good number. And then from there, you're like, okay, I know in a week or a week and a half from now, when we get into that first game, it's going to be tough. First game's going to be hard no matter what. Adrenaline's going to be pumping. It's going to be hot. Like, just get them close enough that they can kind of survive that game. And then honestly, people always say, oh, we didn't look in shape. And it's like, well, I stopped doing conditioning a month ago in August and it's September. So like, we can't blame their conditioning because we didn't do any, but two, like those early games, it really comes down to managing if you have the depth, like you got to rotate bodies in, you got to keep people fresh. And it's coaches that understand that and can platoon people in and make me look better. And it's like, man, those kids were fresh all night. Yeah, because we kept subbing them out. Like we didn't. Yeah, he's the best kid, but he's not the best kid on play 10, play 11, play 12. So
and trying to reach that 100% efficiency where players are full go all the time. Ideally, that's what you'd love to have as a coach, but you're never going to get there, right? So I was always thinking as far as reps, but as soon as you said yardage, and tracking how far, I was like, man, that's a different way to think about it. We were always in shape, ready to go week one. We busted our butts over the summer. We asked a lot of our kids being down here in Florida that we probably overtrained a lot over the summer. And from my experience, we saw those injuries late. It's like we broke down late in the season. Late in the season, the injuries piled up. And I believe, looking back, it was a result of overtraining. Those athletes. So how would you say to high school coaches to make sure they don't go down that path and overtrain?
It's so hard because, Tony will tell you to not run them at all and keep them fresh and happy and healthy. And I'm like, yes, but you're also keeping them a little lazy, right? And part of the summer is to grind them out and give them an experience that they're going to like. I remember high school football. I remembered putting in work in the summers, hoping that it was going to pay off in the fall. Like, part of my job is to provide a great experience and push you through something that you didn't know you could do. So, as much as I want to, there's times and places where you need to push and then you need to throttle back. And it's like perfect world. You kind of push them really hard in the summer. You get close to camp, you take them back a little bit. And then, first preseason practices, I told our coaches this, we went back at the end of the year. We looked at all the times the kids went into the training room. Right. So whether it was a nick or a bump or it was an actual injury, and they signed in that they were going to get some treatment, I had the list on it. And 25% of our 25% of our injuries one year came from the first 4 days. So 1 out of 4 injuries was on the first 4 days. And I'm like, guys, it's because and it was to be fair, it was 2021. So it was the year after COVID. And it was like, we got August camp back. Yeah, I missed this, and we just sent it, right. And it's like we got to be a little. So 2022 and then 2023, we've done a better job of. You don't need to just install everything in the first 4 days. You don't need to. And honestly, like if you're installing that much stuff, you're probably overdoing it, right? Like high school kids, I don't know, show them a couple formations on that, and they'll be fine. Like don't overdo it, and just less early on. And build up to camp. So like sometimes our coaches like to think, and this is multiple sports, is like preseason really needs to be hard the first like 2 weeks. And then last week we'll kind of take it easy and get ready for the game. And just like you said, you may not have a ton of injuries right away, but that wear and tear on the tires is going to come back to bite you at some point. I would rather start out preseason on the easier side, and the kids are kind of like paranoid. They're like, when is it going to get hard? Like, when are we going to be out here? And by the time they go to the first game, you've been building and climbing, and they're just like rabid dogs that are ready to just let loose, you know? And it's like, I'd rather have them build up and feel like they're like, we gotta prove ourselves, than we crushed and we're exhausted. And I hope I feel better by game day. I hope I'm ready to go by game number 1. It's like, again, survival mode versus like we're thriving and we're ready to go out and win this thing, you know, is a huge difference. And the hard part is, for college coaches or for any high school coach or football coaches, let's say you don't do enough and you lose, right? That goes back on you. Like, man, I wish we did a little bit more. I wish we prepared a little bit harder. It's a very American mindset. If I outwork the competition, I'll win. And if I don't win, at least I can say I worked really, really hard. It takes a lot of confidence in yourself, a lot of confidence in your program and the culture that you built. And, you know, that my kids know their material. They know where to be. They know how to line up. We've practiced enough that I feel good that we can send them out there and they're going to get this thing done. And it's, I don't know if it's confidence. I don't know if it's, like, it takes a man to be like, okay, we're going to pack it in, and no, we're good. Like, Tony talks about giving them like Monday and Tuesday off and then practice Wednesday, walk through Thursday, and then game on Friday night. And I'm like, you gotta have some cojones to be like, yeah, we're giving the high school kid Monday off and Tuesdays to walk through. Like, when I was high school, it was game on Friday and it was film on Saturday. It was practice Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. And then you went and you were just like, I hope I feel good tonight. Like, let me take a couple more ibuprofen, see what happens. And, you know, we're just learning that it's build them up and then just kind of leave them on the edge. That way on Friday night, you can just let them loose and they'll respond. They'll bring it.
Yeah. I mean, you know, in the conversation I've had with Tony and a lot of other people, and we kind of monitored this, was, right, you do the stuff over the summer, no matter what you're doing, right, you feel good. But then you go into fall camp, and Matt knows as well as I know it, you practice Monday through Saturday sometimes, and you do all these things, and all of a sudden you've had 20 practices in 23 days, and then you want them to play their first game. And it's like, hey, dude, they may just be freaking tired, right? It may not be they're out of shape. And we've seen that to the point where at times when we've backed off on fall camp and just given them a Wednesday off, maybe 2 Wednesdays off in that entire set right there out of the 24, like, man, the kids look really fresh now. And we did that my last year coaching, and then we rolled into game 1. We're like, boy, we look fast game 1, man. We just gave them, we only built in 2 extra off days. That was it. It's not like we gave them, you know, we weren't feed it, you know, full like, hey, we're going to give them 3 days off every week. You know, it was like, look, this is what we're going to do. We're going to build in 2 extra off days. And our kids kind of made the comment. They're like, Coach, we feel fresher. So I know there's a balance. I'm not saying that's right and not everyone else is wrong, but there's a balance somewhere in there.
I'm a big believer in how you set up your practices and how you put everything can make such a big difference, bigger than what I can do. Like, I can get them to the start line, but you can really change their conditioning and their readiness just based on how you practice. Like, in preseason, this is not how we do it, but I've seen a lot of other programs do a 3-day. So the first day is helmets or shells, like something light, right? And it's a little more than a walkthrough, but you're going through a lot of special teams, a lot of things like that. The second day is the day you open it up, so it's 1st and long, 1st and 10, par down, all that, and then you go third day. Is the opposite. It's red zone. It's short yardage. It's condensed. So like, you get a lot of your running in on day 2, your big open running, and then pair up with your special teams. So that's going to be our kickoff, our KOR. It might be might boot, punt return. You can do that on any day, really. But then the next day, you know, that's going to be PAT. That's going to be field goal block. Like, all of our shorter distance stuff paired up with what we want to do offense and defensively. And then I like the day off, and then you go back and just keep repeating that. So you go another helmet day, and then you can go uppers on the open day, or if you want to put the pads on that day, put the pads on that day. And then you go uppers on red zone day. You just got to be smart about, you know, short yardage stuff like that. but our coach likes to bang, so we'll put pads on for a red zone or a short yardage day. Like, that's, if we're gonna wear pads, let's put them on that day. Let's bang, because then you got a day off coming up after that. So
yeah, I really like that. I've kind of heard people talk about that, but I love the idea of matching up my full go day with like a red zone or a goal line and compress day. That's a really damn good idea. So.
Because in the weight room, it's the same idea. You want hard days, you want easy days. You want hard days, you want easy days. So like if we do a squat, you're not going to do a deadlift the next day. Like it's going to be real. Like you could, don't get me wrong, you could do 1st and 10 both days, but it's not ideal. Like you want to pair it up. So we'll pair it with, like, if we do squat one day or lower body stuff one day, next day will be upper body stuff. So a little bit more upper lower split. Now we'll still do running on every day. So it might be speed work and then lower body in the weight room. The next day is the opposite. We'll go weight room first. We'll go upper body work, and then we'll do conditioning, because conditioning might be a little bit more aerobic. It's from a nervous system, it's not going to be as intense.
Yeah.
But when we do that, it allows us to push harder on those days individually than if we have squat day. Then the next day is going to be tanked if we try and do deadlift. So why would we do that? It's kind of the same idea. Like, let's run them hard on day 2, and then day 3 we don't care about how much they're running and how much. It's more about, can you be physical, and you can get away with that being a little bit tired after day 2, where I don't know, you technically could flip it and you could do red zone on day 2 and then you could open it up on day 3. But I kind of like the idea of like an easier practice. I think the running is the biggest thing that wears kids out, is when you have that one kid that's on every special teams, right? He's cooked by the end of the game, and then finish with something physical and nasty, especially going into a day off the next day. From a mental standpoint, I think the kids appreciate that too. I think I agree. And then if you really want to put some live reps in, you put live reps in on that day and say, hey, we're going 4 plays each, 1s and 2s or something like that. I think that's the way to do it. I like that a lot. So,
you sure you haven't coached football before? I mean, like all out. I'm sure you have at some point. I know you played. You sound like a head coach right now.
The only thing I can't do is recruit, especially the games with the NIL stuff. Like I'm not a liar. I'm a straight shooter. That's why I love my job, is because I can tell you the truth. Like, the best thing about FCS right now is we get kids that want to come down because they want a chance to shine, or they want a chance to, like, they need something to go to the next level. So they're coming down to find us. Where you're getting the kid that's unrecruited and he wants to eventually go Power 5. So it's like, okay, you're coming to me because you want to get developed. So either way, I'm important and I can help you get there. That's part of the selling point, right?
I love it.
Like Oregon's right tackle right now, he started out at Rhode Island, and he had a great first couple of years, and then he left, and now he's PFF ranked him as like the top offensive tackle going into season. And it's like, that's as frustrating. I wish he stayed at Rhode Island. Like, no, I think it worked out for him. So, like,
and it worked out for you guys too, because
it helps our reputation.
Every game they're going to say, "Well, he's a transfer from Rhode Island," because they love to talk about where they transferred from. Every transfer, it's like it's written in the notes for every commentator, which are the worst people on earth.
But I mean, he wasn't getting recruited out of high school like that, so part of it was the development, either on the football side and the strength and conditioning side combined, helps you go to another level. So
agreed. So, Coach, back to this, right? We're talking about being on the field, in the summer. We're at high school. What are some of the things that we should be doing on the field, right? I'm not asking you to go through like a full 8 weeks, but like, what are some of the movements and or drills or whatever you want to call it that we should do on the football field or on the track, during the off season?
Yeah. So from maybe more of a strength and conditioning side of things, right? The 3 things I want to get better at: acceleration. So that's your first 5 yards, your first 10 yards. And that it can be as complicated as like sled pushes, or it can be as simple as push up to sprint, or kneeling starts, or, we're always, I call that our race and chase category. So like, we'll put kids both in a push-up position, one behind the other, and then they got to get up and tag the person in front of them, or like just race each other, and you'll get faster, like, and just keep the distance short a little bit, right? So that's quality number 1. Quality number 2 is max V, so your top speed. And that's when, the biggest thing we've done is had laser units, and we've tried a few, and nothing ever beats Brower, right? Brower is like that. The blue box is the gold standard, man. I freaking love those things. So, we'll put those out, and like Tony says, like if you value it and you prioritize and you publicize and you make it a big deal, eventually it becomes a big deal to the kids, right?
Yeah.
So we put out the rankings, we put the leaderboard out, and on that day, I'll tell you, it's we do lasers. We go in the weight room and we get the jump mats out and we jump on the jump mats, and then we usually are going to squat that day. So the motto is, right, we're going to run fast, we're going to jump high, we're going to squat heavy, we're going to get paid. And our kids know, like whether it's a Wednesday or a Thursday, depending on the time of the year, they know that's the day. Like if we scrap the other 4 days, this day's happening.
Yeah.
Rain or shine, snow or not, like it's going down. So no excuses of like, oh, I'm a little tight today. All right, you're not going on the rankings. Like you're going to be in the loser category down here of guys who didn't run. Like there's a lot of pride in that. There's a lot of we went out and on Amazon bought a 20-mile-per-hour sign, right?
Yeah.
If you hit I think it's 102 on a fly 10. If you hit that number, we take a picture of everyone who's in the club, and for some guys who've been banging on the door and couldn't get in, and like Chris Brown said, you're on the outside, you can't even get in. So now when you finally make it, you're like, yes. And I've seen kids get better, and then they're always like, well, if I in college, it's like, if I put on 10 pounds, I'm not going to be as fast anymore. And it's like, watch me. Like I bet we can put 10 pounds on and you'll get faster. So it's now become a point of pride of like, this is a category that's very important for us. And more than just being 20 miles an hour, like I have numbers for each group and say, this is what a really good skill player should do. This is what a really good mid should do. Our bigs, a couple of them are banging on the door of the one, which is scary. But their number might be a little bit higher than that. And the new thing out there is the truck stick measure. So if you have a fly 10 time and you multiply it by body weight, you can get their momentum, which is a physics thing. And then you just tell them pound for pound, this is your, on Madden, this is your hit stick. And so now that number is becoming a little bit more popular. And it only works when you can tell them what a good score is. And it only works when they know other people that do that as well. Like now the lasers are becoming more popular. So they can say to their buddy who goes to a different school, well, I ran a 9.8 today. Would you run on lasers? And, you can have that conversation, but like hit sticks, it's not 100% there yet. So it's not.
I heard about it for the first time from Tony. Holler actually talked about the hit stick thing.
I think it's really cool. It's just, it hasn't caught on yet with everybody yet. So it's only
it will. I mean, we still did that. I did the wristbands for the miles per hour. And I'm telling you, anytime, so we did it at like 20, 21, and I did have a couple kids that hit 22. They were cruising. Now it's track, not football.
Right.
But they're sitting at my portable at 7:05 the next morning. School starts at 7:20. I mean, Coach, where's my band? I saw the graphic yesterday on Twitter because I would wait. I had to go home and do all the graphics. Yeah. And you'd be shocked, right? It's a band. It's a little rubber band like the Livestrong bands. It cost me $30 to get 100 of them or whatever. And those kids are sitting there waiting. So they care because, like you said, it's competition. And when athletes want to compete, they want to win. And I love every aspect of that.
Yeah. So, I mean, I honestly, it's one of those things, and you got to give them enough rest. You got to give them plenty of time. But it is something that the faster you get, and you have to expose them to that, you have to, 1 or 2 hard reps with plenty of rest in between, let them reach their full potential. It does make a difference. Like it does improve. Now you got to go back and you got to fill the time. And the hard part for a lot of coaches is like, what do you do in between? So we do a lot of med ball throws and stuff like that in between, because you do the upper body stuff while they're doing that. And it's like, okay, it's not going to totally cook them. We might do little things like ankle jumps. So do forward, backward, sideways, ankle jumps. So do some stuff like that. Because those things, I don't think really tire you out too much, because I know there's a lot of coaches out there that got to keep things moving. You can't just have kids standing there chatting too much, because especially at high school, I feel like it's like cats. Like they're just like, they're all over the place. You got to, if
you're feeding the cats, right?
Yeah, you're feeding cats for sure. So acceleration, top speed. Last one for strength and conditioning stuff is change direction, right? So I like to slow down. I like to teach low pad level, push to move. And then from there, it's shuffle, it's crossover. I'll put multi-direction stuff in there. So it'll be like angle, crossover, runs backwards, like you're dropped back into coverage. Back pedals, depending on who it is. Like more the defensive guys will back pedal, not the big guys, not the wide receivers really. If I can split the group, if I can't split the group, then we're all working on it, because everyone gets better when you work a variety of movements, right? And you just, you do just go with it. And then in college, they feel like they're better than that, and it's like, oh, it's okay. I stole it from Brian Keegan's he's in Texas now. He's at North Texas. But Kyle Keese is he's a high school strength coach as well, football coach in Texas, and they're dominant. And it's just the grid. So we take cones, and I have 11 bajillion cones, as long as people don't steal my cones. And it's just a 5x5 grid, and it keeps repeating. And we go from the end zone to the 20. So you get one cone at the 5 to 10 to 15 to 20. And from that grid, you can do anything you can imagine. So I'll draw it up sometimes on paper. Sometimes it's kind of just in my head, where it might be shuffle, and then it might be angle sprint. So you're boom, and then you're moving up one. And now you have the first group, but you also have the second group ready to go. So now the second group is going to do the same thing. First group might do the opposite. So now it's shuffle left, angle sprint right. And then from there, it's like you're only limited by your movement patterns. So now we might spin a kid backwards and say, okay, you're going to go shuffle right, angle crossover, run back left, reset. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So it helps when you draw it out, but I mean, so we'll do sprint to shuffle and sometimes I'll use it as a teaching and a movement pattern if we want to go slow and we want to talk about things that we're trying to do. And then there's other times where it's like, I'm going to give you kids the heads up. This is going to be an accountability thing. This is going to
gas it up.
Yeah, let's gas them out. And like, I'll come up with some wacky stuff. It'll be, angle sprint, back pedal, shuffle, sprint. And then you have to, in your mind, you have to flip the drill for the next rep. Anytime we mess up, we go back to the start. And it's like, you get that. And I love doing this to our freshmen that show up in the second half of the summer. So they were at their high school graduating and whatnot. And then they show up in like the first week and they're sitting in the back and they're not paying attention. And then I just know it's coming. And I try and give the upperclassmen heads up. I'm like, guys, let's not have a repeat of last year. And it always happens, right? And they're not paying attention and they're getting cooked. And it's like, when the kid in the back messes up, it's worse, because then everybody has to come back and do it again. So that there's a lot of accountability there as well. So sometimes I'm nice and I teach in that, but then there's times where it's like, I'm teaching you a different lesson today. But I think that like that grid and that setup in terms of organization and structure, if you need a way to kind of maintain the group and get everyone kind of on the same page, I think that's a great way to do it. We'll do straight ahead. We'll do sprint and stop, right? So we're working on decel patterns. We'll do sprint and then we'll turn 90 degrees and kind of stop lateral. That's another way we'll do it. Again, you can do your jump training. You can do your warm up in the grid. So one kid on each cone, do your in-place stuff to warm up, go back in your line, do your dynamic stretch. And we'll do things like, we're going to do more of it this year, but just rolling. So like, we're going to start on all fours. You're going to tuck your shoulder and you're going to roll. And I think a lot of that stuff works better when you're kind of like in your square, in your spot. I tried doing it in a warm up where it was like, okay, you're going to roll and then you're going to go into your A skips or something like that. And it was just like absolute pandemonium. They were like, no, we're not doing this. We're not doing, but I think if they're in a static spot to start, so we're doing some hip mobility, we're doing some stuff in place, and then it's like, okay, we're going to work on our rolling and our bear crawls and things like that for our contact prep stuff. I think it's going to work out better this year. But if you look up like Brian Keegan's, you look up the grid, I think that stuff is so good. It's such an easy way to coach a lot of different movements. And we love putting that in on Friday because it's a day where the cuts and the change of direction are things that really make you sore. So let's put that on a Friday, knowing that they're going to get a couple days off going into the weekend. And then I like to do the top speed stuff in the middle of the week. I know a lot of coaches like to do it on Monday because they're like, well, the kids had 2 days off and they're ready to go. I've never seen a kid ready to go on a Monday. I'm sorry. No, just doesn't work for me. That's like same thing with practice on Monday. Like it better be a walkthrough because like, I don't know, man. Even if the kids slept for 2 days, it's probably even worse, right? Because then it's groggy. It's like, I like building up into the middle of the week, and the middle of the week is where you get paid. So,
no, I agree.
For the strength and conditioning things, but then we can talk conditioning, we can talk contact prep, wherever you want to go next.
Yeah. So, sorry. Go ahead, Matt.
No, you go ahead, Coach.
Okay. You were just talking about rolling and contact prep and all that. And this was something I saw it when I first came across you on Twitter. In case you're listening, this is how we reach out to people. We will find you on Twitter and reach out to you. And I was like, oh, he's talking about some really cool stuff. This is very interesting. And so I looked at some of your contact prep stuff, and then this kind of draw us into it. So I'm gonna start off with this question: like, why are we rolling? Like, what does that do? And I'm so intrigued by you talking about rolling.
Yeah. So
I know your dog's right there, so sorry, you're good. If you need to pet it.
I got two. This is they're just like, damn, what's going on? This is Panini.
In case you're listening, Coach warned us
awesome
that
name for a dog, right? Panini.
Coach warned us before the episode when his wife came home, the dogs were going to roll in and bark a little bit. So if you heard that, we got pre-warned about that.
I don't even think it was her. I don't know what happened there. We'll see what happens here in a little bit. But in terms of the rolling stuff, like the contact prep, the story I always say is I started doing this stuff back in like 2019, and it was honestly just out of necessity. Up here in the Northeast, you didn't get a lot of days outside because of the snow.
Yeah.
And where I was at Merrimack College, which is a D1 program now, but it was D2 back in the day. And we're like, we need to do some more conditioning that's like, it's going to get their heart rate up. But we only had a basketball court and like a little hallway for 90 kids. I'm like, what are we going to do? We had the coaches. We had enough coaches to do 6 or 8 stations. We did, you name it, we did it. And I was like, all right, we're going to do just some overs and unders, an old school, high school wrestling thing. And we'll just and the kids ate it up, and they were just like, they thought it was the greatest thing ever, of just this push pull. And I'm like, oh man, we're onto something here. And I think I was ahead of the curve a little bit, but then COVID hit, and it was like, you are not allowed to go within 6 feet of people. So there was no contact. Talk about contact prep. There was no prep for contact back then. So it's like, it kind of faded. I kind of, forgot about it a little bit. And then I picked it back up when we finally were allowed to do all those things again. And the story I always say is, from Thanksgiving until spring ball, right? There's probably, you're not, unless you're playing basketball or wrestling or doing a very physical, like you're not getting in somebody's bubble like that. Even track and field, like you're not doing that. Like shot putters aren't doing that. They're not getting in each other's space. But then same thing for when spring ball ends until preseason starts. That's a long gap of time where you're not pushing and pulling, moving a body, getting comfortable with somebody bumping you or things like that. And even the rolling and the crawling, like it's, let's say you're a ball carrier and somebody trips you up, and then you see the kid roll out of it because he's an athlete. Like, awesome that he's an athlete. Let's try and make everybody athletic, right? Let's all try. And hopefully if we do enough of these, that one, we're going to build up some exercise-induced muscle, just like muscle memory almost, or muscle soreness, that you're going to have some DOMs, and then you're going to get over it, and you're going to recover, and you're going to feel better. So like, that's why the first couple of days of practice, you're always like, man, my body freaking hurts. It's like, yeah, because you've been bumping and pushing, and you haven't been doing those things. Like, you've been lifting all the weights, which is great, but like, those things aren't pushing and pulling and moving you. So that stuff helps reduce some of that soreness, so you don't feel those things the first couple of days of camp. Are you still going to feel it 100%? Like, your neck is still going to be sore no matter how much contact prep or neck training you do, putting a helmet on, and then it's inevitable. But the other stuff, I think we can prepare for that a little bit through some of these contact prep drills. And now it was a section in that Gridiron Warrior program because I think it's so important to do it for conditioning. But coaches were like, well, I need to do more. Like, how do I fit this into the off season? How do I fit this in year round? So you start with the easier and the other part is, a lot of it is partners. And we know high school kids aren't very good partners with each other because they're interesting. So we start with drills that the kids can do by themselves. The kids can do in place. So that's the rolling, that's the bear holds and the crawls. And then I have like 30 different variations of crawls off that. And then you can start getting into some partner stuff of like, okay, I'm doing a bear crawl. My partner is pushing me or resisting me. We get into some like shoulder push pull, things like that. We're both in a bear hold and we're both shoulder to shoulder and we're trying to push each other one way or the other. So those things like that. And then you can get up into some standing stuff, and then you can get into some more competition stuff. But I usually save that stuff for later in the summer. Once I know that I can like put this drill out there and a kid's not going to get hurt doing it.
Yeah.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So like you probably saw like the sample as part of the course is like it's like one kid's hugging a med ball and the other kid's trying to rip it out. And he's got 10 seconds to rip that med ball out. Now the number one rule is don't take the kid to the ground, because what do they both try and do? They both try and alligator roll and try and, so it's like, okay, I don't bring that drill out until I feel confident that we can do it. We've done the overhooks and underhooks, and we set up like one of the hoops, and then the first guy to push the other guy out of the hoop wins, right? So we'll use that one. Again, we don't do that one very often because you put the two kids in the sumo circle and it gets pretty competitive really fast.
Good stuff.
But and the kids eat it up. Like when we bring it out once a year, yeah, it gets juicy. And it's like the kids remember that. And they're like, Coach, every day they're like, when are we going to bring the circle back out? When are we going to do that one again? It's like, good. I want you to have experiences like that when you're here. And at the same time, I also want to prepare you. So like 90% of the time we're just training, we're preparing. And then every once in a while I sprinkle something like that in, and it gets a little bit better. So, yeah. And everybody, and the thing I say too, like, this is great for the bigs, and our bigs will do a lot more of it than our skill guys, but your skill guys benefit from it too, right? Our skill guys will do a lot more stuff in like a long arm position, because if they're going to jam somebody or if they're going to stiff arm somebody, like your arm is usually going to be out and exposed like that. Or if you're going to, let's say you fall, right, and you put your hand out to try and brace yourself and catch yourself, that's when your wrist injuries, your shoulder injuries are bound to happen, is when your arm is outstretched and you haven't been in those positions before. Not saying you can prevent injuries by doing all this contact prep stuff, but I think it goes a long way. And from a muscle memory standpoint of like, okay, if a hand hits the ground, I should probably duck my shoulder and roll, or hopefully you've built up a little bit of endurance in those shoulders and things like that, so that if you do get in a funky position, it's not the end of the world.
Yeah. That one hit home, Coach. My 2017, I guess it was, we have a 4-star DN that's committed to Miami, and they put him great on defense. They put him in the Wildcat against Mandarin, where we're playing Carson Beck, who's he's the quarterback at Georgia now. He scores on the play, falls weird, sticks his arm out, snaps his arm in half. He played one snap on defense that entire game. I lost my 4-star DN. And as a DC, that 4-star DN made me look really good a lot. So losing him was tough.
And I'm not saying you could have prevented that, but like, it's one of those things, you'll feel better at night doing it in the summer, knowing that hopefully that's not going to happen again.
But even if, like you said, even if it's a little extra work and, you don't have to act like it's going to prevent catastrophic injury, but if it, again, drives the injury rate down, or like you said, or the banged up rate, I don't know how you would say that. Yep. I think it goes a long way. And I think that's a good point. Like you talk about how you get sore, obviously you're going to get sore either way, but like, yeah, you haven't done this in a while. And as soon as you said that, it kind of triggered in my head. I was like, oh yeah, you have this long period where you're not bumping into people and not kind of being rough, and that's what football is about, right? It's being rough on every play. So I think that makes perfect sense,
especially for your big guys. Like they just don't need to run as much as the skill guys, but what they do is that push pull in the trenches. And it's like, could you go push a sled? You could, but the sled doesn't push back. Once you get that thing rolling, we all know, if you played secretly, once you get that sled going, it's a piece of cake, right? So you're like, well, let me get a good group of 5 and let's get this thing moving. And it's going to be the easiest rep ever. It's when you have a group of 5 that can't get it moving. Yeah. So bodies is the way to go, because they're going to push back. They're going to resist. They're going to get, you can do things like, we'll go sideways and we'll go shoulder to shoulder, hip to hip, and we're both laterally pushing into each other. And you're going to smoke some like groin and adductors and things like that. And hopefully getting those things sore now means that you're not going to be as sore when you're doing a bunch of combo blocks on day 2 of preseason. You're like, okay, like it's not the same thing. And I'm not trying to say it's the same thing, and I'm not going to coach it like it's a combo block. I may say, hey, this should remind you of a combo block, but I'm not going to go into the interest because he's big word podcast. But fully from a muscle memory standpoint, you're not as sore when you go do those things.
Yeah.
Coach, we used to even put players, our offensive line, down in a 3-point stance and then have someone else moving them in different directions just to increase their balance in the stance and get used to being down there, down low. And you see the results for something so simple. You wouldn't think, just as a football coach normally, that would help. We saw results just off that balance, just working the balance on an every day out of a 3-point stance.
Even the D lineman, like I know that the hot trendy thing on social media is like the hand fighting and the martial arts stuff. It's like, bro, I need you to win on first down. I need you to win on second down right now. Otherwise, we're never going to see those tools. We're never going to see those hands.
Yeah.
So like, let's learn how to actually boom, engage and shed. Let's learn how to actually lock a guy out and, you know, peek a gap right now. Let's learn how to set edges, because if we can't set an edge, we're never going to get to third down. So like, we'll do things where we'll put one hand in the chest and we'll long arm it out. And then you need to drive this guy back, and he's going to make sure he doesn't get driven back. So it's like, you know, don't get me wrong. Like, we'll try and mix some hand fighting and things like that in. I think that stuff's cool, but I'm trying to win on first down and second down. Otherwise, we're never going to get those things off.
So, I mean, you're not doing the Aaron Donald and having guys with knives while you're hand fighting with them?
No, because Aaron Donald was
I'm kidding.
all that, and then you go back and watch 90% of his snaps, and it's like eating double teams and
bull rushing, and
and it's like contact prep. That's all he needed to do in the offseason. All the knife fighting was like,
oh yeah, it's social media stuff, and he's awesome. Don't get me wrong. You know, so question: we talked about, I love this contact prep stuff. Is there anything that you do specifically, me being a defensive guy, for like contact prep for tackling?
Yeah, so this is that gray area.
Or am I asking too much here?
Right. This is that gray area of like, I can't bring pads out in the offseason, so I can't bring a tackle pad out and be like, okay, we're gonna wrap and roll. So it's more from just a position standpoint. With a lot of our like create and close space drills, our offensive players are trying to create space and get open. Our defensive players are trying to close the gap. So we'll spend, you know, are we going to wrap and finish on these? No, we're going to tag off. We're going to tag the hip. We're going to fly by. So it is one of those gray areas where it's like, I wish we could do more. I wish we could wrap and take guys to the ground. And it's one I'm not ready to necessarily cross that line yet. I don't want to get in too much trouble for that. But if we're going to do a thing like we'll have two guys in the box, offensive player has to go around the cone, defensive player has to come around the cone. I'm going to ask our defensive players, we're going to coach up, hey, you're going to long stride into short stride, and you got to stay square on this guy. And we're trying to tackle this guy square up. We're not trying to get him on his back hip or whatever it is. Yeah. And then we try and do for we always try and pick drills that are like advantage offense. And it's like the defensive players complain because it's not a fair drill for them. Good. That means I picked the right drill. Yeah. And then we'll flip it and we'll do drills that are defensive favored. And the offense is like, I'm never going to score. And it's like, all right, good. I picked the right drill. So we'll do some, 2v1 drills where they have to learn how to kind of vice this thing together correctly, because that is skill in itself. Is, you can't really talk to this guy because it's happening so fast, but like, can we kind of get on the same page and vice this thing up? One of my favorite drills, and I'm kind of like known on social media, I guess now, is the sideline tackle drill, where you have the offensive player go around a cone and then they're going down the sideline. You have one guy that has to go away from the sideline, and it's like a bigger loop. So he's the trail defender. So he's got some ground to catch up. And then you have the third guy who has the angle. So he's trying to force this thing. He's either trying to force this guy out of bounds, or he's just trying to hold him up long enough that the cavalry arrives. So, I think it's pretty good, especially the trail guy, because he has to kind of see what's going on in front. Like, one, he has to run full speed, which is awesome. But then two, he's got to see what's going on in front of him. Is this, offensive guy trying to cut back right now? Or do I just need to just stay on this thing and try and close it out? So, yeah, I'm always thinking along those lines of like, how can we add, again, that's the football drill, right? How can we add a football drill into top speed work? How can we add a football drill into conditioning? Now we may just, group of three guys up. We might do one on this side and one on the other side of the field, and we're just going to rapid fire. We'll get our reps in. So I'm always thinking of like, what do those drills look like? How can we do more? There was another one this winter we did. It was honestly like both kids just hit a burpee, and then the offensive player caught the pitch, and they had the angle to the end zone in the corner. Yeah. And then the defensive player had to cut the guy off and take a good angle and not be a cutback position. So, yeah. And, the drill you just talked about, I think that's how I found you on Twitter, to be honest with you. Nice. Because you posted a version of it like not too long ago, right? A couple days ago, or 4 or 5 days ago. I probably did like a recap or something like that. Yeah. So I saw that and I was like, oh, what's going on here? I'm like, oh, it's football. Let me check out what it is. And then, of course, I said, okay, this is a cool drill. And then I clicked on your profile and I go through your thing. I'm like, oh, what's this contact prep stuff? I'm like, all right, this is intriguing. So
it's clearly the Twitter's going the right way because it's drawing coaches in. So no, but I love the aspect of it. Matt, do you have any other questions about the contact prep stuff right now?
No, I don't. We used to do a lot of the basic push pull stuff. So I'm actually I just saw it on Twitter, so I was kind of looking at it right now. But no, it looks phenomenal. I want to dive into it. I think I'll have more questions once I dive into it.
Yeah, absolutely. So we may have to get you for like a quick follow-up session where we get you for like 10 minutes and ask you some more questions. So
Okay.
Well, perfect. I don't want to, Coach, do you have anything else to add? I don't want to take up too much of your time tonight. You know, I really appreciate you joining us and talking all about this.
No, I like the late night. This worked out great for me. So this is awesome.
Yeah. Same thing for me and my kid as well. So Coach, thank you so much for coming on. We do ask one final question of every podcast. It's a tough one.
Mm-hmm. This will be good.
We ask every coach, what's the coolest or most unique thing that goes on in your program? And it doesn't have to be in the weight room. It doesn't have to be on the football field. It can be a culture thing. So what's the coolest or most unique thing that you guys do at Rhode Island? Yeah. And we'll give you a minute to answer it.
Now football or the entire
it can be anything you want. I don't care. Entire athletic department doesn't matter.
You know, I guess it's one of those things. I stole this from I don't know if it was Barstool or one of those things, but when I first got here, I said, you know what, like we're doing Almost Friday. And it's just your goofy pictures. And it started out with like stuff that we would grab like during workouts throughout the week. And then if I saw something on social media, if I saw like, you know, our school president, he's an awesome guy. He comes in, works out 3 days a week. He's got chickens on campus at his president's house. Like he's a big chicken guy. He's got like 4 or 5 chickens in a house. And so like there's a picture of him holding a chicken. I'm like, perfect. That's Almost Friday right there. And it's you know, you're getting close to the weekend. Like Thursday, once you make it past Thursday, it's a breeze. Like Friday's a breeze. Yeah. So and it's gotten to the point where it's its own beast right now. And it's like people send us goofy, embarrassing things all week, and it's like, all right, some of these we can't post. Like come on, man. We're here to have fun. We're not here to hurt feelings. But you know, the kids when they see that, it's one of those simple things that like, that is my most popular Instagram post of the week on our strength account. You know, we're putting education out, we're putting training highlights, we're putting, you know, mental talk Monday. No one cares about that. They don't care about Almost Friday. Like, oh man,
there's Almost Friday, Coach.
Like you know, our men's track team is phenomenal. It's like 20-time conference champs or whatever. And somebody sniped a picture of the track coach. He had just won the Coach of the Year trophy. But he hadn't eaten all day because when you're a track coach, you just run around all day like a maniac, right? So he's sitting on the track. He's got a box of pizza, and he's got his Coach of the Year trophy holding up his box of pizza. And I'm like, that's such a flex. And somebody sniped it. They're like, Almost Friday. I'm like, yes, that's what
brilliant.
And he loved it.
I love that.
The funniest thing in the world.
Coach, that's one of the most creative answers we've gotten on this entire podcast. I love every minute of that.
And you know what? It's free. It's free. So,
yeah.
You know, I'll keep doing it.
It's taking something that's relevant in culture and applying it with your kids in the weight room. I think that's such a good incorporation. So perfect. Well, if you're still listening, we appreciate you for coming on. If you'd like to reach out to Coach or reach any of his stuff, Coach, I'm going to let you go through it. You want to start with your Twitter handle and then go to your website so they can get to the information?
I don't even know it. Hold on. Let me.
All right, I'll do it. I got it in front of me. So his Twitter handle is at Scott Leech. That's LEECH 72.
Nice.
His contact prep course is contactprep.carrd.co.
And then
he's also
in the bio and all that.
Yeah, it's in the bio, and also scottleachtraining.com kind of has a lot of information, different podcasts you've been on and everything. Obviously, Coach, we want to make sure to pub that. We really do appreciate you coming on, answering our questions. We're definitely going to have a follow-up session with you after me and Matt dig into this more, because we will. That's who we are. We're junkies for all of it. So
nice.
For me and Matt signing off, again, Coach, appreciate having you on tonight. And, you know, if you ever need anything from the Board Drill podcast, we're here for you.
I appreciate you having me on, guys. This is great.
All right.